OLUCHI CHINONYEREM IGBOSONU is an authentic, nurturing woman, a wife, mother, and one in pursuit of God's applause. She's a certified associate family life practitioner, counselor, dedicated to helping families thrive. With over 2 decades of marriage experience, she understands the challenges families face and provides the tools and resources to overcome them. Oluchi is a skilled communicator, teacher, and relatable mentor. She is the founder of Delightsome Haven, with a mission to bring wholeness to families and nations. But I thought we could all hear it. Unfortunately, it's not happening. But the essence here, this is Malaho as a person simply saying that she says she wants to drink water. And somebody is saying that's not the correct pronunciation, it's water. And she's saying, what has that got to do with drinking water? Because she can't roll, can you roll your tongue like her own? And can you call her name correctly? And she was busy saying to all of us that there is a beauty in our difference. There is a beauty in our personality. We are all different. As our faces are different, so do we have our unique character trait. So we'll move on from there and not let the video hold us back. Now he wants to play. Can you imagine? So the objective actually is to understand the effect of nurture and how to correct them. Do you know what makes you behave the way you behave? Do you know what has brought you to the point that you are? And if you remember, Deborah laid a foundation about our humanity. First of all, we are all human beings deserving of respect and honor. The only difference is in our gender. Our gender doesn't make us any less of who we are. However, we have gotten to where we have gotten to today. If you remember her slide, she had a picture of children, and you couldn't tell who was Hispanic, who was Nigerian, who was African, or who was any other thing. All she simply did was say to all of us that we are all good in our own right. Now, a portion of scripture, and I am a Christian lady, a portion of scripture says, unless you dramatically change your way of thinking and become teachable like a little child, you will never be able to enter in. The problem of our world today is an adult, you and I, because everyone on this meeting tonight is an adult. The problem of the world today is an adult. The solution to the world is a child. Can you see the beautiful face of that child? Can you see my screen? Please confirm you can see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Excellent. Okay. And so the question would be, who taught us who is poor and dirty? Who is clean and rich? Who is young or old? Somebody taught us. Who did that teaching? And what has your learning done to you as a person? I'll ask, who would you have been if you were born in China? Probably my name will not be Oluchi. It probably will be one Ching Chong Chung. Who would you have been if you were born to a Yoruba family? You probably may have the tongue interference that makes you say honor instead of honor. Will that make you look down on that person? Or you could be an Anambra or Igbo person who will say light instead of right. Mother tongue interference. Do we understand that who we are today is a makeup of our nature and our nurture? We were all crystal clear. What we became is a function of what was imputed into us. And so as I speak to husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, young men and young women who intend to get into the institution of marriage and raise a nation that is called a family. My question is your nurture helping you? And would you want to do something about it to ensure that that changes? Remember that Ayobami handled culture yesterday, and she narrowed culture away from our tribe and tongue and brought it closer home to the culture of families. Yesterday, she talked about how she never got around to mixing up with people and was probably tagged a snob just because her parents had a rule that you don't come out and relate with people on the streets. And she didn't have an understanding of that until she got into her third or final year in the university. So how is the culture that you're dealing with? How has it served you? How is it serving you? Particularly, how is the culture in your home or in the one that you intend to begin? How is that serving you? Is it serving the interest of everyone? Is it enabling everyone to manifest their full potential? I listened to a preacher, I think it was today, who was saying that we're complaining about the nation. We're complaining that in our constitution, we have freedom of speech. Yet in our homes, there isn't a freedom of speech. Children can't express themselves. Wives can't speak about what they think. Husbands are afraid to actually tell you what they feel. And yet we're complaining of the larger society. Can you imagine what the transformation will be if we begin in our little corners and begin to express ourselves? And all these things, the way we behave, the things we do, have come through some filters. There are 7 filters that I'm going to look through tonight. And those filters are values, beliefs, memories, attitudes, language, decision, and meta programs. This evening, I had a good laugh because I was saying something to my husband and he was so unperturbed, so unmoved. And I said, how did you come to this point? You won't behave as though you've even heard the thing, not to talk of even being flustered. And he giggled. I said, I related with your dad. And I know he does. Where did you get this one from? It's not from your dad. Neither is it from your mom. And he said, well, I got it from my grandfather now. I say, which grandfather? He said, his maternal grandfather. He said he's even better than his maternal grandfather. That his maternal grandfather was deaf and dumb and couldn't hear. So how does he even respond to what that? At least he's trying. He hears. It's just how he's responding. And it tickled me, but I'm asking, how are the things that have happened to you affecting the person that you are becoming or that you have become? And is that person serving you? And so let's look at values. Values simply talks about what is important to you and your character. It talks about your deep beliefs. Your beliefs, they are your convictions, the things you are strong about. You are so convinced that nobody can tell you that white is black and black is white. And so those beliefs drive your behavior. And then memories, they are a mental record of your past experiences. And I'm asking, what memory is driving you today? What memory what have you ascribed a meaning to? And is it serving you? Recall, I'm constantly saying, is it serving you? And then we have attitudes. How you see life at the moment. How are you seeing life? How are you seeing life? And how is your perception of life driving the way you are reacting to things or responding to things? Then we have the language, our mode of communication. How people and what people speak and how they speak. The way they express their thoughts and their emotions. And then we look at decisions. And decisions are a function of your choices. What choices are you making? What options are you considering that help you come to the decisions that you make? And then we have the meta programs, which are basically your behavioral patterns. Stay with me because tonight we're going to have a conversation and interact with ourselves. Do you know how your temperament is serving you? Do you know what your personality type is? Do you know your behavioral pattern? Do you know how you respond to challenges? And how are they serving you in all instances? I want us to take a look at what we have here. There is a man that looks like he's standing on a board, and I'm asking you to think. And he's saying that there are many dimensions to a matter. And the conclusion you get is always a function of how you think. Now, look at the second picture. Somebody says it is 6. Another person says it is 9. Would you say that they are wrong? You can unmute yourself and respond. Would you say that they are wrong? One man says it is 6. The other man says it is 9. How many times have we gotten into needless arguments because we're only seeing things from one perspective, the perspective that has become a narrative through our filters of life? Remember the filters we just went through? So, which of these men is wrong? Is anybody willing to speak up? Which of these men is wrong? 6 or 9? Hello? Can you still hear me?
They are both
None of
correct.
them, ma'am.
None of them is wrong, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do you imagine sometimes when you have gotten into an argument and you just needed to just step back a bit and ask yourself, where could this person be speaking from? So that it can delay your response. The other man down says he's seeing 7 beams. The other man is seeing 5. Another man sees a school and he says, great opportunity for my child to be able to go to school. Another teacher thinks that his time or his occupation or his source of livelihood is being threatened. Would they be wrong? Please mute yourself if you're not talking. I deliberately allowed us to be able to unmute ourselves because it's going to be a time of deliberation, okay? And then somebody sees a tree, stays at the point of just a tree. Another man sees a tree, believes he can cut it down and get logs for firewood. Another one believes he can turn it into planks that probably may be used for building. And finally, one man sees it and says, oh, I can make a chest of drawers, I can make a chair, I can make a table. So when you are not making the necessary progress in your life, and you see another person making the required progress, are you there sitting down, envying the person instead of asking the question, what is the person seeing? You know, a story is told about Hagar, who ran away with her son Ishmael and into the desert and thought she was going to die. And there she cried out that they were going to die in the desert. And suddenly her eyes were opened, and right in that desert was a well that could give her water. What are you seeing? And how is that affecting who you are becoming? Can you see that little child that is bent over? Cultural parlance will say every time a little child bends over in your house, particularly that's your child, then it means the child is calling forth another baby. Has anybody heard that? If you've ever heard that, just give me a thumbs up in the chat room. If you've ever heard that, when a child bends over, they say, oh, come on, me, oh. He's calling another child. Another child is on his way. Is that your experience?
Yes.
That's your experience. Beautiful. That's your experience. So I want to see how many other people have had that experience of heard when a young child is up and the child is bent over and they're telling the mom, it looks like this child is seeing something that we're not seeing. Thank you. Just keep it coming. Just keep it coming. And so for me, The thing becomes, sometimes, can you stop and realize that there could be other perspectives? Somebody says she can't hear anymore. Ndifreke, can you hear me now, please? Is everybody hearing me? Let me have a
Loud
yes.
and clear.
Can hear me. Thank you very much. So we move on.
Yes, we can.
Now look at the first picture. Two ladies hugging themselves. In this age and time, we could target lesbianism. Is it possible? What else could it be? Send me a chat on what else it could be. What else could it be happening here? What else could this picture in A represent? Picture A, what could it represent for you? Hello, I'm not seeing any responses. And the responses, celebrating successes together. Beautiful, Ayodele, thank you. Friends that have not seen themselves in a long while, best friends who haven't seen for a long time, two siblings meeting after a while. Are you seeing all the perspectives that there are? And somebody could actually think that these are lesbians. So love between friends. So what prism, what filter are you seeing the things that you see every day and making your deductions? Let's look at B. That's the voice, right? And somebody tell me why you think that the voice, mother and daughter meeting to celebrate. Excellent. Can somebody tell me why you think that the voice, if you've all watched The Voice, all the judges back the person who is auditioning? Can somebody tell me why you think they make them back the people there that are auditioning? Or mute your mic and answer if you have a perspective.
Hello, everyone. I
Yes,
think they back the person in the stage because they don't want to. They don't want their view of the person to tamper with their judgments.
Excellent response. And so I will tell you a story. Blind auditioning came about. They used to do a blind auditioning and they would have a curtain and the judges would be seated. And somehow, if there was a judge who was biased against a lady, they found out why. Every time the ladies walked into the hall, they had the kako, kakako, kako with their heels. And so they chose people who did not come with the kako. And so they decided to do an experiment and ask every person coming for an audition to remove their shoes. They removed their shoes, and when they came in and did what they needed to do, those who had been marked down because of the kako apparently were the ones who made the top list. So how many times are you viewing life from your bias? How many times are you challenging your bias through which you judge the issues of life? Now let's look at C. Somebody is holding the elephant and saying it's a spear because he's holding the tusk. Another one says he's a snake because he's holding the trunk. The other one says he's a fan because he's holding the ear. One says he's a wall because he's touching the body. And then one says he's a rope because he's touching the tail. And then one says he's a tree because he's touching the leg. Would any one of them be wrong to describe the elephant as what they have described it? The floor is open. Excuse me. Will any one of them be wrong for the perspective that they brought to play? I hear you, Austin. Judges are made to judge on the voice of the contestant. However, when they see the person, Maybe she has a pretty face. Maybe she has beautiful eyes. Maybe he has a beautiful physique. That could become a bias. And so because of that, they go and they turn their seats. But now we're on C. Would any one of those who had described the elephant as a stair, fan, wall, rope, snake, or tree be wrong? Will any one of them be wrong? Can you hear me, people?
No, you're not
They are
wrong.
not wrong. They gave their response based on their reality. And that's what I'm asking you to see. As you deal with your friend, as you deal with your colleague, as you deal with your spouse, as you deal with your children, can you step back sometimes and see that they may just be limited by what they are able to see at the time? Now let's look at D. D, we have first picture is a Hausa man. Second picture is an Igbo man. Third picture is an Igbo woman, is a Yoruba man. Do you realize that it is the same man dressed in different outfits, in our different cultural outfits? And so somebody could see that dressing, and because you have a liking for the Hausa man, you gravitate towards him. Or because you have a bias about Igbos who are called Ajokutamamomi, you switch off. You can't have that deal. You know, or you see the Yoruba woman and say, Yoruba man, and say, Ndi ofe manu. That's the way the Igbos will refer to them. Ndi ofe manu. And where is the ofe manu coming from? You know that they are ewedu and stew. That's why they call them Ndi ofe manu. Almost like they don't know how to prepare soup. I said, Ndi ofe manu. Do they know how to even cook food? How many times have our relationships been truncated just because we didn't give somebody a chance? And until we begin to work on ourselves, change is inevitable. And as I say that to you, I'll give a personal story. I grew up in a home where 5 girls, amazingly, I am the first of those 5 girls. And I watched people walk into our home and say to my father, get a second wife so you can have a son. And my father would say to them, get out of my house. That thing Oluchi will not do for me today, no son will do it. As simple as that was, it created a bias in my mind with the way that men handle stuff. But it built in me a lot of self-confidence that I was enough. And so yesterday, Ayobami made reference to something. And amazingly, because we're all women on this free webinar, many of you will think we're talking about women's emancipation. Far from it. And so as a person, when I had heard somebody like a barrow pusher say to me, I get your time at home. And I say, oh yes, so you get my type, but not be me. You understand? And I work in a male-dominated environment. And many of the times, the people have heard things about you, didn't give room to have their own experience, just judge you by what they have heard. And so as they are coming, you can feel the vibe and the attitude. And for me, nobody is going to take undue advantage of me. Nobody is going to make me feel any less of myself. And so I would respond with the same kind of energy. And then one day, there was an elderly, old white man who was walking with us. And the man said to me, Oluchi, come, I see your struggle. And I walked into his office. Amazingly, he has 5 girls. And so he understands the interplay. And he said to me, how would you want to be known? As an aggressive woman or an assertive woman? And that was where the change began for me. That while I was trying to assert myself, the way I was going about asserting myself was probably not the right way. And so I sat down, and usually I'll always have a bottle of water close to me. And so when they come into my office, oh, and they really come in and they begin, I just say to myself, Oluchi, you will make a response. And to delay my response, I'll take water. You see, I needed to take some time to swallow it. So that in taking the time to swallow it, I will also think about my response to them. I'm giving you practical tips of how to go through the issues of life, because whether there are issues, they are real. And then they will turn, Madam, you're not saying anything. I say, I'm listening. I'm listening. And then after a while, they will realize that they had crossed the line, and by themselves, they will begin to apologize. And so I'm asking you, what filters are you working? Now, one other thing that has happened to us in our climb is that we have not been taught how to praise ourselves, how to accept ourselves for who we are, acknowledge the things that we are gifted in. And I'm going to ask you today, attempt to praise yourself for 5 minutes without quoting from the holy books and without repeating the same words twice. How many times have we been told that when you praise yourself, you are proud and arrogant? Today, I want to tell you that self-care isn't selfish. Self-care is actually nurturing yourself. So can you start? Who is ready to be put on the spot? Who is ready to praise himself or herself for 5 minutes? I want the first person that unmutes himself or herself to begin the praise of herself or himself. And let me see if you'll be able to go through it without repeating the same words, without quoting from any holy book, just appreciating who you are. The floor is open. The first person to unmute has the floor. Who is taking my challenge? Do I want to say that people have not learned how to praise themselves? Nobody is taking me up on this challenge. Who is taking my challenge? Hello?
Hi.
Are you taking my challenge?
Positively.
Okay, please. Now tell me, praise yourself. Let's go.
My name is Emmanuel Belemao Bokri. I am a fun-loving person. I don't judge people with what I hear about them. I interact with them to know exactly who they are. I'm open to learning. I'm not a proud guy. I love people. I love outing. I love fun.
You've said fun twice. You've lost out. Who next? One more person. Who next? Is there anybody ready to take my challenge? Let me help
I'm
you.
ready to go.
Who is that?
Hi.
What's your name?
My name is Deborah.
Okay, Debbie, you have the floor. Praise yourself. Let's go.
Okay. I am strong. I am good. I am great. I am more than enough. I am all right. I am okay. I love myself.
All
I
right.
appreciate
Okay, is the same thing.
myself. Is it the same thing?
I am all right. I am okay. Is it the same thing?
No.
Okay, go on.
I am
Go on.
splendid. I am wealthy. I live in abundance. I live in the wealth that I open my mind into. I am wonderful. I am adorable. I am sweet. I am delicate. I am amicable. I am sweet. Okay, I said it again. Okay, I guess that's
You see, I am challenging us today. Can we appreciate ourselves? Because the love of yourself teaches you how to give yourself in every situation. Have you been able to love yourself for who you are? Because for me, Oluchi, I'm a delight. I am purposeful. I am eloquent. I'm a teacher. I am beautiful. I'm intelligent. My prize is far above rubies. I am authentic. I am bold. I'm a fighter. I have a voice. I speak against injustice. I'm an asset. I am driven. I am purposeful. I'm a treasure. I think I have said purposeful twice. But you see, until we come to that point where we can talk about ourselves and appreciate ourselves for who we are, we will constantly sit in the place where we're waiting for other people to tell us who we are. I say again, self-love isn't selfish. Now, remember that when we went through culture yesterday, we talked about the way we were raised. We talked about the culture of the home. And the question I want to ask you is, what do you remember about your upbringing, your environment, and your significant emotional experiences? What can you remember about those things? Because it is critical in helping you forge the path forward. Stay with me. I have put on display here my tree of life. Can you see my tree of life? Let me have a yes if you can see my screen right now.
Yes.
Beautiful. I deliberately drew this. And when I was drawing it, I actually went back to my father, and that was sometime in July. And I was saying to my mom, actually, my parents actually, that see the roots. Whatever you are saying about anybody are the leaves. There is always a root cause. There is always a root cause that leads to who they are and what they are becoming. And so if you see my roots, I have my father, my mother, my 4 sisters, myself. And then I was very deliberate about writing 2 names of 2 of our helps. We had helps, but 2 stood out for me. One was Kudirat. In fact, I couldn't remember her name. I had to call my 3rd sister who remembered. I said, there's a help we had who had a rat name. And then they said Kudirat. And why did Kudirat stand out for me? Every time I went to ease myself in the toilet, Kudirat would stand. You know those keyholes we had in those times? They were bigger. She will stand behind the door and will be peeping at me through the keyhole. I was probably 7 years. So what I'm talking about is about 41 years ago. And I will keep saying, I don't like this. I don't like this. And she never stopped. So one day, Kudirat got into the toilet and I decided to retaliate. And as I bent myself with my bum shooting out, peeping at Kudirat in the toilet, behold, my daddy walked past. He got a small cane and gave me 7 strokes of the cane on my bum and said to me, it is wrong to peep at people. That was when I learned privacy. My father didn't know why he beat me. He didn't know what was happening. My father only got to know in July of 2023 what had happened. My mom didn't even know my dad beat me at all. So she also got to know in July of 2023 when I was saying, Mommy, we had this Kudirat. Daddy gave me 7 strokes of the cane. You needed to see my father laughing, but shocked at what it was that pushed me to the point where I was peeping back at Kudirat. How many times as a father, as a mother, have you hit on a child, talked down on somebody without knowing where the person was acting from? But you know, it left me with a life lesson. My father wasn't one to hit carelessly. He was deliberate, and I can tell you how many times he hit me. It wasn't careless. It was very intentional. And I remember that I should never peep at anybody. Then we had an Auntie Ngozi. Auntie Ngozi lived with our grandmom. And when our grandmom on our mother's side passed, she came to live with us. Auntie Ngozi knew how to sew. And my parents sent her to a training school to further expand her. She got so well groomed that she could make cream, detergent. She made baby cots. She made shoe hangers. In fact, the very first shoe hanger I ever had, I bought from Auntie Ngozi. But today, Auntie Ngozi, who could have been an institution, did not take hold of everything that was exposed to her. And I'm asking, how many of us are where we are today because we have not seized the opportunities that were given to us? Remember the case of the tree in the picture we saw earlier, where somebody just saw a tree. Another person saw that all that the tree could produce was a log. Another person saw that he could produce planks. But another person saw that he could make household items and he could become an institution. What are you seeing where you are? And now, as I began to draw my tree, I found that on the right side of my tree are my happy times. So very many times you would find me watching Sound of Music. And my husband would say, don't you ever get tired of watching it. Apparently, it is my happy place. They sing beautiful songs and I love music. I could learn so many lessons about family life from Sound of Music. It was one place, and still remains one movie I will never get tired of watching. I'm not a movie person, but Sound of Music, I will never get tired of watching it. I love to read. I read a lot. That's one place where I'm in a world of my own. I love to sing because it has carried me through life. And the questions that I begin to ask myself is, what are the things that you're happy about? I have taken time to itemize the things. I enjoyed Christmas celebrations because our father will make breakfast in the morning, barbecue the chicken, and we girls and our mom will bake and cook the rice, and he will serve us. You know, I loved the work from home. I went to the University of Ife Primary School. And so we used to walk back in the neighborhood, and it was such a beautiful thing. Sometimes we'll have a competition amongst ourselves as we all branch out to our different roads. It was a lovely time. I love travel times because my father would take the time to fill the car with fuel, would have serviced the vehicle, but make sure that he filled the car with fuel before we had to go out on any trip. So you're not starting in the morning going into the filling station. And so you don't feel nauseated at all. Mommy will fry all the chicken and all the things that you can imagine. And then when we want to wee on the road, my dad will open the front door and the back door and ask you to stay in the middle so nobody sees your bum bum. But it was beautiful. There were beautiful times. I love the fact that there's a long path to church in Ife. And that long path to church was an undulating path that looked like we were going on a roller coaster ride. But yet, every time to go through that path, my father would say, would you want to go through that path? Then get your things early. And all it was for him, we didn't have to spend so much money. All it was to hear us laugh and giggle like munchkins. That was his joy, just seeing us as we felt like we were on a roller coaster ride. How many times have you delayed yourself, deprived yourself of joy and happiness because you're waiting for the big things to happen instead of enjoying where you are on the path to where you'll go? My left side, being the first, I was constantly being held responsible for what I was not supposed to do that another person did not do. And so I felt like I was pressured. You know, I felt like sometimes I felt overworked. I felt like I was put on the spot. Then when I took JAMB, my JAMB score was 199 or 197. That year, the cutoff mark was 170 or 180. But before we knew cutoff mark, my father had told me that I was a disappointment. And so it resonated with me that I was a disappointment. And yet I didn't have to take JAMB again. Now, my branches are my desires. I desire to be a coach, a relationship coach with expertise that is different, that brings it to bear and is able to share my experiences without shame. I desire to be a wealthy place. I desire to be rich in relationships, family, and friends. And I'm asking you, do you know what you want to be rich in? Those are my desires. My lives, they are my gifts. I'm able to teach with grace. I'm able to think creatively. I pay attention to detail, really. I write, and I'm quite organized. And I have some leadership skills. Do you know what you have? Do you know who you are? The fruits on my tree, they are the people who have added value to my life, or the people whose lives have been transformed by my experiences. And the tree trunk, you see those little things that look like ants crawling on those trees. Those are the things that limit us. And for OLUCHI IGBOSONU, I'm a perfectionist. I overthink the issues. I'm overly sensitive. And sometimes it can stop you in your tracks. Sometimes you even know to do things, and people who are not even graced in that area are starting and taking the baby steps. OLUCHI is waiting for everything to be perfectly in order before she makes a move. How many of you are like me who have been stopped in your trap because you're waiting for all the things to be put in place? And I'm asking you, can you find out what your own is? For some other people, it could be anger. It could be some anger that makes you destroy everything on your path. And so I ask you, as you leave this place, think about who you are, where you are coming from, and how those things could have informed where you are right now. Now, do you realize that we're a product of nature and nurture? So let me remove my glasses. I wish you could see my eyes. I have hazel eyes, beautiful eyes, that very many people stop to ask me if I'm wearing contacts. So in fact, when I had to start wearing glasses, it was very an unhappy moment for me, because I just felt like they wouldn't see the display of my eyes. Well, but I only use the glasses when I need to be on the screen or I need to read. So do you understand that the color of your skin, your hair color, the color of your eye, your shape, that you are unique in yourself? Can't you imagine how unique you are, that they do your biometrics and even twins do not have the same kind of biometrics? I'm challenging you to see the beauty that is in you, that is not limited to what anybody has called you in the past. And then there is the place of nurture, our environment, our early childhood experiences, our upbringing, our culture, and the behavior that we exhibit. But you see, neither of them is greater than the other. We are all a product of nature and nurture. Both of them are playing critical roles in who we are and who we become. And I'm asking you, which one of them is not serving you? Which one of them would you need to rethink? So I want to ask, can you write down 7 labels? You don't need to publicize them. I'm asking you to begin the work on yourself. Remember that the change we require begins with you and I. So while I may want my spouse to be better in an area, the only way to begin is me. While I may want my child to respond differently, the only way to start is to start with me. You know, and when I say start with me, my first son challenged me once when I rebuked concerning a matter, and he said to me, "Mommy, can you cut me some slacks?" Everything that happens to me first. And it is most unlikely that what you have rebuked about, that it's most unlikely that my younger brothers will walk in that area, having seen that you did not approve of it. So they are learning from the mistakes I have made. It doesn't necessarily make them any better than I am. And wow, I realized how I was subtly bringing the pressure that I went through as a first child upon my own first child. And you see, what you do not identify, you don't even know when you begin to transfer it from generation to generation. So I ask you today, do you know what you are doing? Do you know if it is serving you adequately? And is there something that you may need to tweak differently? And so recently, because I have learned to cut him some slacks, he came to me The last time he was home, I said, Mommy, I noticed something. You don't ever rebuke me before my younger brothers. And I said, yes, to preserve your honor and to preserve your dignity. And he was thankful for it. How many times are we looking at the things that we have gone through and what labels have been given? What labels did they give to you that you did not like? Mention the three important people or heroes in your life and take the time to write out 7 attributes about them that you like and see what it is that you can begin to tweak in your own life. Now, I want you to, after mentioning those 3 heroes and the 7 attributes, pick out from the 7, 3 attributes that you admire the most. You may want to do it at home. Pick a partner. Let your partner use those attributes to make a statement about you. But can you start by using those attributes to make a statement about yourself first? And then I'll ask you to go back to the negative words that you detested. Look at them afresh and attempt to change their meaning. A few days ago, I watched a clip and it was somebody trying to pay a bike man who is a Hausa man. And in trying to pay the Hausa man, he said to him, Aboki. He said, don't call me Aboki. Don't call me Aboki. And the man was taken aback. But Aboki means my friend. He said, no. In the West where I am, Aboki means a foolish fellow. Can you see that even though he is a Hausa man, even though he knows that the original meaning of Aboki means my friend, having stayed in the West, the meaning they give to Aboki, you know, when you've done something and the Yoruba man wants to tell you something, you mean Aboki, you know, literally a foolish fellow. But how many of us, if they called you stupid and told you that stupid meant beautiful, would it annoy you the way it annoys you? You know, there's something that my husband would constantly do. When you call him something, when you tell him something, you say, thank you for the compliment. And I just never understood it. But thank you for the compliment was his own way of reassigning a meaning to what it is that you are hearing. How many of us have been stuck in our traps because of words that have been spoken to us, because of the pain that those words brought, because of experiences that we had and have limited us? I call you today to come away from the place of shame and pain and to see what it is in its real sense. Again, I will send this video of Helen Paul telling her story about how she was birthed from rape. She is a product of rape. She doesn't know who her father is. Her family didn't even want to identify with her. Her aunties will come, her great-grandmother raised her. Her aunties will come and give their grandmother money and will say, this money is for you to take care of yourself, oh, not for that bastard that you brought. We don't know where you got the bastard from. And when her aunties leave, her grandmother or great-grandmother will say to her, now people were supposed to be your family be this, so you see as life day, if you like, no do your life well. And so she had bastard constantly, bastard constantly, bastard constantly. In fact, when she was to enroll in school into primary school, her hand couldn't get to her ear. And beautiful. Can you, I'm not sure, can you hear it?
Yes, we can.
You can hear it, right? Okay. And her name was given by the first person who showed her mom any form of favor. One elderly man said to her, who is the first person who ever showed you favor in the course of the delivery of this child? And she says, one Auntie Helen. Say, call her that name. Helen is what her name is. And in school, when they went to register her mother was calling the sisters to see if she could use the family name. And they said no. And one man, seeing the confusion, say, give her my name. Helen Paul today is a professor in the US, a comedian in Nigeria. She has PhD degrees and did not let her bastard situation hold her down. And so I ask you, if there is one word that will define you from now, what will it be? 10 years ago, OLUCHI CHINONYEREM IGBOSONU was shot by armed robbers in her home. I got into hospital with less than 6 grams of blood. We're not sure whether my leg would have been amputated, but I'm here today standing on both feet with 14 pellets still in my foot after 2 surgeries. It's amazing how I go through pain daily, and yet my face is not a reflection of that pain. But I didn't get to that place overnight. I got to that point where I began to ask myself, why me? And for every time I asked the question, why me? What happened to me was that my wound collapsed and we began the process all over again. And so I began a healing journey. And on that healing journey, I was asked to get a scenery of a place that I really, really admire. And then I should put the picture of that scenery on my fridge. The person who took me on that journey was Tekena Ikoko. And he said, put it on your fridge and stand by that fridge and snap a picture of it. And then I want you to name that day. Name April 6, 2013. I named April 6, 2013, delightsome. And my outlook to life has actually been delightsome. What is that thing that has been said to you? What is that thing that has held you bound? What was it that happened in your upbringing? What was it that took place in your environment? What is that significant emotional experience that you went through? What is that culture that has abused you as a person? Can you give it a different name today? Can you look at it from a different perspective? Can you begin to give yourself and applaud yourself every day as you wake up? And how will you go through life? I ask you today, can you believe in yourself? Can you believe that anything is possible? Can you believe that you are a change to this world? And that change, I dare say, begins with you and I. What transformation is going to happen in your home? What transformation is going to happen in your relationship? What transformation is going to happen in your workplace? What transformation is going to happen in your environment? But what transformation is going to begin with you tonight? Pause, ponder, and ask yourself who you are becoming by the things that you have experienced and encountered, and whether that is serving your purpose. So I ask you, as I ask these very questions that you need to, of necessity, sit down with and look through, what makes you happy? And I want to say to you, like it was said to me, do more of what makes you happy. Those were the exact words that was said to me. Do more of what makes you happy, because nobody should be given the power to hold you bound. Nobody. That's a power that should not be released to anybody. But yet, it is a power that you can release to your atmosphere. Because imagine that you pass by somebody and you smile. The next thing that happens is that a smile begets a smile. What are you spreading? And so we want to look at happy. Can you answer what you want from life? What do you want from life? What are you naturally graced with? Do you even know who you are? Because that's where it begins from. If you don't know who you are, what can flip you? What can get you angry? What can set you off? How do you even know how to mitigate them? How to keep them away from your place? how to secure your environment. What are you passionate about? What are you willing to do, even if you will not be paid for it? That is your happy place. And then the question I will ask you, what do you regret? And what are you going to do about that regret? Are you going to stay in the place of regret? Or are you going to take my invitation tonight and say to yourself, today is a new day. It's the first chapter of a new book in my life. And I choose to be happy. That will be it from me today. Again, I am OLUCHI CHINONYEREM IGBOSONU. And you can always reach me on my mobile or on my email or using my link tree. But the floor is open for those who have questions to ask, who have concerns, and who want any clarity in anything that may have been spoken about tonight. Thank you for listening.
Am I reading the questions? Am I missing it? I'm not seeing your questions.
Not seeing any questions too. I was hoping that we'll have questions. Well,
Guys,
somebody said, Paul Abiodun Emmanuel. He says today's session was a new discovery. It would be nice to know what new discovery you got today.
yeah.
Are you willing to share, Paul?
Okay, so no audio, but there will be a video because this session is recorded. And yes, it's live on Facebook as we speak. It's live on Facebook. So if we have enough time, I will be willing to take questions from you. We'll be willing to take questions from you, but I want to appreciate everyone for joining.
We're still recording.
I'm not sure I'm still on. I want to appreciate us for joining. Okay. This evening. Something's wrong with my screen. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Please, please just go ahead. Oh, my internet is unstable. Just go ahead and drop your questions. Please go ahead and drop your questions. All right. Please go ahead and drop your questions. Mama, that was an amazing session. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Bless you too.
Thank you for I also noticed that she took us through a tree of life. And that's a serious one because even in therapy for people who have issues, you will be required to go through that process, so as to be able to assess your healing. All right, because if you cannot determine where the problem started from, you might not be able to assess your healing. And that was really valuable. That was really valuable. So, well, congratulations to everyone who made it to this call. And I'm hoping that everything you've learned tonight, you are going to apply it. Okay, you are going to apply it. A link will be, the link to, will be sent, all right? The link to all 3 sessions from Friday, Saturday, and today will be sent, will be dropped on the WhatsApp. Okay, so I'm reading a question here. How do you start this re-engineering in a multicultural society like ours? I'm going to take that question again, Mama. So I'm taking it again so that it will give you time to think about your response. How do you start this re-engineering in a multicultural society like ours? So I want to believe it's talking about Nigeria as a whole. Yeah. How do we start this re-engineering? Mama, go ahead.
So if you noticed, when I spoke, I kept saying the change starts with you. The change starts with me. It's only with you, with me, that any change can begin to happen. Okay. And that was why I was very careful about stating personal experiences. You know, when, for instance, I would come at my first son and then suddenly he could say, Mommy, you are not, do you realize that I am the one who encounters or who makes the mistakes first? And when my brothers see the disapproval, they are not likely to walk in the same shoes. It dawned on me that there is a lot that the first child goes through. Our culture, you know, the way they hope that the first child is holding everybody together. I'm a first child married to a first child, so you can understand the pressure. You know, are you looking out for your younger ones? Do you know that you are the first? Do you know that? And all that story. But have you even identified yourself? So at a point, I used to be under a lot of pressure. The first question is, have you identified it for what it is? Start with you. We can't be talking of Nigeria or even the states that we're in if we don't start with ourselves. We start the engineering by focusing first on ourselves. What am I doing? And the question I would ask, for instance, is everything you hear, is it true? If it is true, is it how you want to be known? If it is not how you want to be known, if it is not true, then the question is, what are you doing that is making them think of you in that light? And what can you begin to do differently? I don't know if I'm answering your question, but really it starts with me. So I want to be loved by my husband. Am I first of all showing love? Do I even know how to love myself to start with? Because many a time we're demanding from people what we're not even able to give to ourselves. Can we first of all even understand our journey, who I am, where I am, my ability to love myself, own my mistakes and all of that? Then can I begin to display that to the next person? Only then can I begin to make demands of that same process.
Okay, thank you, Mama. Thank you, Madam Oluchi. So another question here says, my question is that what people say. Oh, okay, so you just flew away. I'm coming to it. Okay, my question is, what people say hurt me a lot. How do I go about it? So someone is asking, she's saying that what people say to her, I guess, hurts her a lot. How does she go about it? About handling her feelings, yeah, about what people say.
So the first question will be, how did that begin? There is always a root cause where that began. And so we may not be able to delve into that except we come into a session with you. Okay? How did that begin? Because if you don't know how it began, then you are likely to have a problem. And let me give you, for as long as things are going on, you are most likely not going to hear my father say anything like, I'm proud of you, face to face. Do you understand? You just see him bouncing and happy, you know. But it would be nice to hear those words. As a person, getting married, one of my love languages is words of affirmation. Okay, so do you know yourself? Because you even need to know yourself and know how you're receiving the things. And then I'm now married to my husband, who, as long as things are going on fine, you're likely not going to hear anything until something goes wrong. And the breaking point for me was August 14. August 14 was the day TD Jakes handed over to Sarah, his daughter, right? That's the day he publicly announced her. And as he was blessing her and all of that, I saw that I was projecting my needs that I didn't fully get from my dad onto my husband. and wasn't accepting him for who he was, and in that area of affirmation. And I actually began to write a letter to my dad that I never delivered. But it was therapeutic for me. I began to write a letter. And as I wrote that letter, I could go to my husband and say, oh, how hard I have been on you. Is what I was expecting from my dad that I was projecting on you. And for that, I am truly sorry. Do you know the origin? Because if we can trace the roots, then we can find the path of terror. Power of meaning, yes. We can't hear you. You're muted, Ayo.
Okay. So, well, I just said thank you for that response. And then I would like to address this particular person who is usually hurt by the things said to her. Okay, so one of the ways that you can get over that is knowing who you are, right? When you are sure of who you are, I mean, you might have to take steps doing that, like write yourself affirmations every day. All right. So whatever anybody else is saying to you, that's their opinion, because you have brought yourself into a place of knowing who you are.
Yeah.
So their words will not get to you. So it's like you're building a bulletproof. You're already building yourself up. You're wearing a shield, such that whatever they are saying to you is not getting in. All right. So I mean, that's a profound way to handle hurts, the things that people say to you. Another way is power of meaning. All right. So I'm going to cite an instance. Take, for instance, somebody said to you, you are useless, especially if the person is maybe your spouse or your father. And then the person says you are useless. So in your dictionary meaning, if you look at it, useless will mean, say, a bad word, a bad thing, like, oh, you're of no use, right? But again, if you learn to give meaning to words, take, for instance, somebody says stupid. I have decided to give the word stupid gorgeous.
Yeah.
So each time the person says, oh, you are stupid, I'm going to be wearing a smile because I'm giving that word another meaning. Okay.
True.
So I'm giving that word another meaning. So each time I hear stupid, I have the power to interpret it to mean what I want. All right. So that way you're really guarding yourself such that the words of other people are not hurting you. And then the person who calls you useless, especially if it's a spouse, you know that it means is not making full use of you. Just give it a meaning. If my spouse says to me, you are useless, I'm just going to smile, giving it another meaning that, oh, okay, he's using me less. Well, what does that make him? You have gold and you're using it less. You have favor and you're using it less. Okay, so that's the power of meaning. Okay, so you can use that to guard yourself from hurtful words from other people. All right, I hope that's helpful.
Very helpful. Very helpful. I like the analogy of you are using me less. So you have a treasure under your place, and you don't even know how to
make use of it,
make good use of it, and get the benefit out of it.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So she said many questions in our head. When are we doing this again? Oh wow. Okay, so I'm going to turn the microphone over to Deborah Hanedo so that she can fill us in with whatever plans. And I it's amazing to be here, really, and we're grateful to have you join the call. And we're hoping that when we call again, you will respond. Personally, I've learned a lot from these two women who are although colleagues. They have impacted me, in the past couple of days, and I'm grateful to be here. All right, Deborah.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you for joining me this ride. It's 3 days, and this is like done, and it's wonderful. It's so impactful. I'm so sure that we are taking it in. There's a wonderful thing about our brain, the way our brain works. When it gets new information and it's taking in new information, there's a way it fits in, and also the truth is it's just 10% to just grab. And thankfully, there's recording. We're going to send you the link and all. So I still need to deliberate with Madam Oluchi and Madam Ayobami about the community, because the idea is we are going to share, we are still going to leave it active for a while so that we'll share our post assessment. So I'll be dropping the link for the post assessment now on the chat section. So please copy the link. We want to see, we want your responses. So please do well to fill this assessment form. Do well to fill it. We want to get your responses. So I'll be dropping it on the chat now. Just copy the link, and when we are done with our section, you can just go ahead. So yes, that's the link for the post-assessment test. And also, I will have to deliberate to know if we're going to keep the group, because some people have questions, some people still have, and some people, I got messages that they have problem joining in because of network. The network was bouncing them out. So the only place we can share the link to the recording and is the community. So if you are in our WhatsApp group, you will get all this information. So if you are not here today or you are going in and out of the section, you'll get from day 1, day 2, and day 3 in the chat. And we're going to share the post assessment as well on the chat. So if you are not on the chat, you can just drop a message here while I add you, because that's the only means we are going to send that through to you. And for those that still have a lot of questions, that how can they go about it? If you notice, I'm sure you have our contact by now. Those on the group they have a direct access, so they can reach out to us directly. And those that are not on our community, WhatsApp community, okay, like I said, indicate that I'll add you. So if you want to go about your clarity, you want to go about clarity section or personal development, you want to rediscover yourself, or maybe you know that this phase that you are in life is not really serving you, because they're saying that where you are, there's this popular saying that says where you are and where you would desire to be, or where you would love to be, or where you envision yourself to be, is just knowledge and action. The gap is not 5 years gap. Where I am now and where I want to be is not a gap of 5 years. It's not a gap of timing. It's a gap of knowledge and how I implement this knowledge. Is it that is something I don't know that's not taking me to that reality I want to be, or something that I know that is holding me down, that's still not taking me to that reality I need to be. But whether I would like it or not, you see that reality is there. That reality is valid. That reality is true. Wherever reality you want to be is valid, is true. But then how to get yourself from point A to the desired point that you want to be. If you can actually do it on your own, you could have been in that place by now. If we all can do it, I would see Madam Oluchi said that story that she has to go to therapy, people have to talk to her and say, do this, do that. If she knows that information all before on her own and all, she wouldn't need the help of the people, or she would just on her own, because she has the resources. So you can communicate with any of us through a community group or through our personal line. If you want to go to any clarity section, or you want to start a self-discovery, or you want to go on a self-awareness journey, you just want to relearn, unlearn, you want to know about your life, your history and all, somebody asks a question, how can we do this how can we do it in a multifaceted reality, culture, and the way Nigeria is so diverse? The thing is, starts from yourself. I used to say it. I said it on our day 1. The best gift you could give the world is your own self-improvement. If you can bring yourself to that higher version, to the desired version you want to be in life, just bring yourself to that version of yourself, that improved version, the healed version, the wholesome version of yourself alone, you are already a blessing to the society. You are already a blessing to the world, because by default, you'll be exuding anything that comes out of you, exude excellence. Anything that comes out of you, exude abundance. Anything that comes out of you is about, you're not harming your neighbor. There's no place of, oh, I'm a parasite. Anybody that comes to me, I suck them dry. No, that mentality is not there. Why? Because you are healed. You've passed through those trauma. You've dropped every trauma responses. Like you're no more in the survivor mode. You're now thriving. You know, that essence of being human. We're thriving already. And this is a journey. We are all working on this journey. Even me, I'm still working on this journey. I have information. And the level I am today is because of the information and the resources and every individuals, either therapists, practitioners that are, that are involved in my life. We are a community. No man is an island. We should be. So if you want to go on this journey, you contact either Madam Oluchi or I or Madam Ayobani. If you're in the community, you have our contact directly, and you showed our email as well. So okay, thank you very much. The community link has been shared. So anyone that is not in the community, you can join now. So for this purpose, I think we'll be extending the existence of that community for now, so that will give you every information you need, and also the pre-recordings will be sent out as well for anyone that still needs to go through this 3 days webinar section again. And anyone that has question and need clarity time, you can reach out to any of us. So thank you very much. Over to you, Madam Ayobami.
Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. When are we doing this again? Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. Okay, I think there's a comment here. Oh goodness.
It's also okay if you have suggestions on what area you want us to handle. That would help us.
Okay. Okay, I want to quickly read. Previously, when I used to get reprimanded being a first child or among friends, and they say some hurtful words, although I might not react in their presence, but being an overthinker, introverted extrovert, I most of the time try to validate those hurtful words. But now the discovery of attributing new and positive meaning. Yeah, I'm thankful that you learned something. I'm thankful that you learned something. Meaning to those words is a beautiful way to go about it, instead of trying to validate that negative reality of those other words. Yes, you're welcome. Abiodun Paul Emmanuel, thank you for joining the call. I hope that you'll join the community. That way you can get information about maybe when next we're having any program or any webinar or anything of sorts that can be helpful to you. You can, just like my colleague and sister has said, Deborah, you can contact us, reach out to us for whatever help you might need. And we're grateful again to you all for joining the call and coming along with us in this past period of 3 days. And so until next time, when we come your way again, hopefully. Thank you. In the community, you might just drop, just like you said, the things that you would want us to address, the topics that you want